Hey, welcome. Adam here. Today we're going to talk about presenting your poster at our upcoming poster presentation. So at this point, you guys should have already done your research, like poster abstract, which was that 2,000 word paper you turned in during week 2. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take that and you're going to turn it into a wonderful poster to present to your peers. That was very alliterative, posters to present to your peers at our upcoming poster presentation. See what I did there? Anyhow, so I'm going to talk to you about two main things today. The first is like what goes into the poster in terms of what information makes it on there. How is that organized? Like what are some design best practices? And then the second thing is like how do you actually present it verbally to people that are passing by? Like what does that look like? And so you may be actually asking yourself, you may say, I don't know what a poster presentation or a poster symposium looks like. What does that look like, Adam? And it looks like this. Oh my God, it's a hot mess. That's what's happening. Look at that. All those people, nobody knows what's happening. Anyway, so people stand by their posters. This will be you. And then other people wander by eyeing the titles. Usually it's 7 a.m. or at 4 o'clock right before dinner happens if you go to like a research conference. And you'll notice a couple things that I'll point out that we'll come back to later. The first is that when people amble by, they are not interested in 90% of the things that are happening. So they're skimming the titles to find out things that are of interest to them. And if it is of interest to them, then they may come in and sort of eye the overview. And then, if they're still interested, then they may talk to you. Or they may awkwardly not make eye contact and move on, like you're trying to sell them something. It feels a little bit like that, like you're trying to sell people stuff. So what are some ways to do this? Let's talk about the poster parts first. Let's skip this. So the first thing you introduce your title, your intro, your background, your costs or implications to society, and your conclusions and references. And you'll notice that these are, by design, the same titles that we had you write your poster abstract in. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the information from your paper and transfer it to the poster. Now, just in general, while we're here, and I can come back to this later, but you're going to put everything in bullet point form. And so a good way to think about your poster is as if it were a visual, like a PowerPoint, say, in your presentation. You don't want to cut and paste huge chunks of text because you're using it like a visual. So what you're going to be doing is talking to the person that's there wanting to learn and turning around and pointing and referencing to things on the poster. And if you've got, a page worth of text, cut and pasted up there, there's no way that you're going to be able to turn around and point to that because you're not going to be able to find the information that you want in that huge chunk of text. So treat your poster as if it were a visual, like a visual aid, not a paper. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So first things first, titles. Generally, just like every other time that I talk about titles in this course, they're the first thing that people read. If they're not interesting, they move on. So definitely take some time and come up with a good title. One thing that people tend to like is if you pose a question or make some kind of like bold claim or statement. I did a poster one time at an extension conference and we did some research on advisory committees, and I was about group cohesion, and I said something to the effect of, does your advisory have to get along to be productive? And we had so many people come by and say, God, I hope not, because ours hates each other. And they were delighted to find that they did not have to they don't have to get along to be productive. So you do want to be specific about what you're covering. And you should try to think of like what is going to be the most interesting thing to this audience, and then like put that up top, because again, it's the first thing that they read. The next thing that they read, if they're just ambling by, again, before they make eye contact with you, is the overview / introduction. And this should cover like the full range of what you cover in your poster, but in brief. So what I mean is like you don't have to, this isn't a teaser. This is like everything that's going to happen in your poster writ very small. It can include, your position on things, your solutions or recommendations or conclusions and stuff like that. So it's just like a very small version. So imagine somebody walks by and they look like they're going to give you about 20 seconds of at their attention. Like the things that you have in your overview, you should be able to tell them, and then they go, I understand, and then move on. Like they may not understand in great detail, but they got the gist of it. Does that make sense? Okay, good. It's also a good place for a visual. So if you want to put in charts or graphs or whatever. Now, your background information is where you get to go into depth. So for the person that wants to learn about this, like a fair amount, that's going to stay and talk to you, what are the things that they need to know about your topic, like backgrounds, statistics, different positions that people may have on an issue? What do they need to know to understand the end, whether that be your recommendations or your conclusions or future action or whatnot? Like what background information do they need to have to get it? So that's pretty straightforward. If you got a bunch of information that you can present in a graph or a visual form, that's always good, because remember, your poster is a big visual. So the less you have to write on it, the better. And then always in bulleted format. Okay, good. Hopefully that makes sense. So the costs or implications to society, this effectively answers the question, so what? So whatever your topic is, there's a reason that it is important to you and should be theoretically important to the general audience that's going to come by. So think about what that is, and then present that so what in a way that resonates with the people. So for some people, that is the cause, right? And it depends a little bit on your topic. And so say you're doing like climate change or whatever. There's a lot of ways that you could tackle that, but cost is one of them. We could say it's going to cost this much to build levees or move crops around or what have you. Or it could just be that this is the way that it's going to affect us, and this could be good or bad. And so you could just talk about the implications. So pretty straightforward. Again, use graphs and charts if possible. And then finally, when you arrive at the end, and I don't know whether it's conclusions, solutions, or future plans, or what have you, whichever one makes sense to you. If you're just presenting some information, it may be good to conclude with like the main points. If you have done some research and there's like a clear path forward, you may make recommendations, and this is why we should all recycle or whatever it is, the answer is. And then the same thing with future plans. Like if there is, like, we've presented the information and there are already trends happening that people have projected into the future, it may be a good thing to leave them with that. And we'll end with, and that's why solar energy is going to quadruple by 2050 or something like that. So just wrap it up. Again, leave them with the main points, things that are important to them. Okay. All right. So references. Sorry, I thought I was done. Here's a pro tip for you. On your poster, you only use the references that you use in your poster. So let's say you used 8 or 10 references in your paper, but whenever you pull information out to put it on the poster, you find that you're only actually referencing like 3 or 4 sources. You only include those 3 or 4 sources. So there you have it. Don't include all of them. Don't just cut and paste. In general, in terms of design, your title for references, like the actual word references, should be the same size as others. But if you need to make your references smaller to make them fit on the paper, that's okay. We just need to be able to find them on your poster. So when we come back in the next video, we'll talk about presenting your poster, tips for not boring people. Aren't those children creepy? Yes, they are.